In this video, we're going to talk about storing data. By now, you probably know that you can store data in a database, but you can also store data within your app inside of cookies, variables, and you can pass data inside of query parameters as well. So in this video, we're going to learn about all of that. If you go to page data, basically at the bottom here, you have these general settings. And here you can create variables. In the navigation section, you can create query parameters, and below here you have cookies, and you can also create cookies. All right, let's start with variables. You're probably familiar with the iterator variable, which is used to render a list, and then it simply increments by 1 with each loop. So with each iteration, when we have, let's say, an array with 5 items, then it's going to go from index 0 to index 4. Now, we can also create different variables by clicking on this plus sign, and you can simply assign any name to your variable. So for example, you can call it checkbox, and let's say you have an initial value of false. This, for example, you could toggle from false to true based on some conditions within your app's logic. For example, if a request executes, you change this, and then you have some other things listen to that variable change. Now, note that you can store almost anything inside of a variable. You can store booleans, you can also store strings like hello, you could also store a number, and you can even store objects and arrays. So for example, you could store a request response within a variable as well. Next, we have navigation. These are your query parameters. In this project, we have 2 query parameters. We have the ID and we have name. Now, the way you create a new query parameter is by simply writing here the parameter name. So in this case, let's write location. And now this is going to get a value whenever there's a location parameter in the URL. So if we expand the canvas over here, we can see that in this URL, we only have the ID parameter. And this is in the URL. So for example, we could add manually here another parameter by clicking add. And here we can write, for example, location. And you could write Berlin. And now we can see here that in the URL, we have this location Berlin query parameter. And the cool part about it is that you can access this value and use it to configure some logic within your app. Here, for example, we have a template page, and then we are creating a request based on the query parameter value. So we are getting the order with the ID of 32 in this case, and we're populating data on the page. So this comes in really handy when you have a situation like this, where you basically need a lot of different pages, sort of like CMS pages, if you think about it, but you only have one static page which you need to populate with different dynamic data. So basically here we're just using query parameters that we're passing, and we're passing the ID of the order, and then when a user clicks on the order, it displays the right order here. If you ever used Xano on the backend, then you're probably familiar with this. We are storing an authentication token inside of a cookie, but you could also store any other string. You could store an address, maybe a URL, so you could build some logic for redirection based on the cookie value. You could also store light mode and dark mode preferences inside of a cookie. Basically, you have a lot of options here. And that's an overview of different ways of storing data inside of your application. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers!